1. Chapter 1: The Cardinal Rule of Relationships. You cannot negotiate genuine desire. This is a very simple principle that most men and the vast majority of women are willfully ignorant of. One of the most common personal problems I've been asked advice for in the past 10 years is some variation of, how do I get her back? Usually this breaks down into men seeking some methodology to return his relationship to an earlier state where a previously passionate woman couldn't keep her hands off of him. 6 months into a comfortable familiarity and the thrill is gone. But in truth, it's the genuine desire that is gone. It's often at this stage that a man will resort to negotiation. Sometimes this can be as subtle as him progressively and systematically doing things for her in the hopes that she'll reciprocate with the same sexual, intimate fervor they used to have. Other times, a married or long-term couple may go to couples counseling to resolve their sex issues and negotiate terms for her sexual compliance. He'll promise to do the dishes and a load of laundry more often in exchange for her feigned sexual interest in him. Yet, no matter what terms are offered, no matter how great an external effort he makes, so deserving of reward, the genuine desire is not there for her. In fact, she feels worse for not having the desire after such efforts were made for her compliance. Her desire has become an obligation. Negotiated desire only ever leads to obligated compliance. This is why her post-negotiation sexual response is often so lackluster and the source of even further frustration on his part. She may be more sexually available to him, but the half-hearted experience is never the same as when they first met, when there was no negotiation, just spontaneous desire for each other. From a male perspective, and particularly that of an uninitiated beta male, negotiation of desire seems a deductive, rational solution to the problem. Men tend to innately rely on deductive reasoning, otherwise known as an if-then logic stream. The code is often something like this: I need sex, plus women have the sex I want, plus query women about their conditions for sex, plus meet prerequisites for sex, equals the sex I want. Makes sense, right? It's simple deductive pragmatism, but built on a foundation that relies on a woman's accurate self-evaluations. The genuine desire they used to experience at the outset of their relationship was predicated upon a completely unknown set of variables. Overtly communicating a desire for reciprocal desire creates obligation, and sometimes even ultimatums. Genuine desire is something a person must come to or be led to of their own volition.